What's going on YouTube? Matt from GarageMC here. This video today is going to be part 2 on Mike's 2003 Trx400ex. You guys seen in part 1, I split the cases. I had already pulled the crank out, but it's the same way like the case splitter that we used. I used that on the opposite side and pushed the crank out. You got to be careful when you do it. I'll show you guys what I'm talking about when we start installing the new stuff. I'm going to get set up right now, and I have some stuff that I'm doing, like I'm cleaning his cases a lot so they look like brand new on the outside. Also, if you remember the bolts that I took apart that split the two cases, I went ahead and started polishing those up. I'm going to put a coat of I'm going to make them some type of color because now they would just rust, but they were covered in grease and they just looked old. It would look like crap putting it back together. So I'm going to finish up some prep, and then I will get the cases back on the engine stand. One of my neighbors is getting a ton of trees cut down, so it's super loud out here, but that's okay. So anyway, I have the cases. I'm just getting those all prepped and cleaned up, and then I'm going to also coat those. I'll show you guys what I use. You'll see how good it looks too, and the stuff's super durable. All right, let me get set up. We'll get into today's video. Let's do it. Alright, well, plans just changed, guys. It's a little too loud outside to film, even with the garage door shut. So, you guys know how I've been doing that make 2 into 1 quad thing? Yeah, I picked up something you guys haven't even seen the other day just for parts. Just so happened to come across another one that needs exactly what that one has. So I'm going to go grab this now. I'll show it to you, and then we'll get back to what we're doing. I'll continue filming tomorrow, obviously, but you guys won't know the difference. So, other than probably my shirt will be different. It will be different, not probably. Let's go pick up this other quad I just got. Alright guys, it is now the next day. I told you guys I would show you this quad that I picked up. I think it was, let's see, today's Tuesday. I think I got this one Saturday. I don't even know anymore, man. I really don't. Shit just pops up and I go buy it. It's a problem. So anyway, this one is a 1987 Honda Trx400ex. It actually did run. I've seen this quad riding before in the neighborhood. He had a problem with the valve. I guess, I don't know, didn't know what he was doing. So it does not run now. What you see is what it came with. I also came with a carburetor, which is one of the only reasons I actually bought this. I'm going to be doing a part out on this machine. And then what popped up yesterday was this. Another 1987 Honda Trx400ex. All the plastics are there with my favorite thing, spray paint. Seat, gas tank's in good shape. This one, I just sold the stator cover off of it yesterday along with the reverse lever. This one here, actually, the guy that owned it, his son was working on it and was prying on the case and went ahead and installed an inspection window here. This is so you can, inspect your clutch without having to take the cover off. Those really nice Hinson removable clutch covers are overrated, so apparently. And about $8 worth of RTV or JB Weld on here. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could pull the bottom end off of that one and put it on this and clean up the plastics and sell it as a whole quad, but these things are worth more money in pieces than they are whole. So that's what's going to happen with it. It's going to get just gutted and sold off to the highest bidder. If you guys need any parts, drop a comment. 87 Trx400ex. I think a lot of the stuff is interchangeable for a 300ex as well. But today, let's get back to Mike's build here. There's Death Row if you guys didn't get a good look at it. But at least, well, one of the Death Rows that are here. Yes, I call it Death Row. Anyway, Mike's build. So the head that he brought me that somebody just completely botched the hell out of, it's no good. It's not usable. I can't even save it. There's just too much material gone. So I have another head here. I got to pull it off of another one of my parts 400EXs. So you guys might remember I had this quad in the 400EX x 8 video, and then I sold it, and then it ended up coming back, but it's got the whole engine on it, so I just put this on a dolly and pulled it out here. I'm going to yank the head off of that and get it cleaned up. do a port and polish the way I do it, and we'll build that with all his kibble white stuff and everything. This way that's ready. I'm not doing that in a video. You guys have seen me rebuild a head before. Just letting you know what's going on. And I have all of his new crank bearings and his crank in the freezer right now. I'm going to finish what I started yesterday and get those cleaned up and coated, and then we'll pick up with this video. What I'll do is I'll put the transmission back in. It only takes like 2 minutes to put the stuff in, and I'll show you guys how to take it apart when you first split your cases and how to take the trans out. And I have another 400ex engine in here that the cases are already split on. I'll just give you a quick rundown on how to use the case splitter to take the crank out of the left side case from like where we left off in the other video. I did that off camera, not thinking to film it, but I'll give you guys a quick rundown on how that works. So, started ripping quads apart for parts and ended up spending the whole day cleaning parts that I need for some other stuff that I got going on. I got the head for Mike's build all nice and cleaned up. It's stripped down to aluminum. This way I can do the coating that I put on that, and I can start rebuilding. And once I empty all the valves and everything out of there, I'll start porting and polishing that. I'll show it to you guys when it's done, but like I said, I'm not doing that on camera. There's a lot of controversy about porting this way, porting that way, what you should do, what you shouldn't do. Everybody's got their own opinion, so I just don't even bother crossing that bridge with stuff. Don't need the extra headache. So the whole day I spent prepping parts, cleaning parts, and I pulled Mike's quad out here, and I'm in the middle of trying to get the rest of this grease off of where the engine sits, this, you know, because you really can't get to it once the quad's put back together. And, you know, this is just all the little stuff that you get when you come and have me work on your quad. I treat it like it's my own. So anyway, I'm going to continue cleaning stuff and prepping stuff, and this day just flew by. It's already over. As you can see, it's already starting to get dark outside. So, you know, not really too much going to get done with filming too. So I'm going to finish cleaning up and getting stuff done, and we'll pick back up in the morning again. This, you know, none of this stuff takes 5 minutes, guys. It all takes a ton of time, especially if you want to do it. I like to work on stuff when it's nice and clean, make everything look new. It's just easier to refurbish and do all this stuff to parts like this. And, you know, even though he didn't pay me to do all this little extra stuff, you know, I like doing this stuff, you know. I take pride in my work. So, you know, that's why quite a few people are trying to get me to work on their stuff for them. I just can't take on any more side work right now. But, all right, let me finish doing what I'm doing, and we'll pick back up tomorrow and try and get to what this video is about. Stay tuned. Calling it a night here, guys. I'm almost done getting these cases prepped up to where I can put them back on a stand and start showing you how to do this stuff. You know, a lot of shit to do. I'll give you guys a quick look at the cases before I put the coating on them. I gotta literally have to strip them down to aluminum, and they have to be super clean to put this coating that I use on it. But this stuff is super durable. It doesn't chip off. It doesn't, like, you can't really nick it. I mean, you can nick it or scratch it if you really attempt to, but it's really durable. Even like if it gets grease or dirt or anything on it, it washes off. It doesn't stain it. It's, you know, polished aluminum looks great. And, you know, I'm a fan of polished aluminum. I really like stuff like that. But on a quad, on an engine, where you're going to get mud and dirt and water and all kinds of whatever all over it, and then it's going to get baked on it and cool down, bake, you know, all kinds of heat cycles ran through it. It's just not, it's too much maintenance for an all-terrain vehicle. Yeah, it would look nice, but, you know, at least the quads I built, I go ride them. I go right through water, all kinds of shit, you know, like brand new everything, doesn't matter. But, anyway, here, let me show you these real quick, and then when we pick back up, we'll pick back up with the stator side case on the stand, and I'll start putting the new bearings and the crank and stuff in it, and we'll get to putting the transmission. We'll put the transmission back in, you know, here in Oklahoma. We'll put the transmission back in, and I'll show you guys how to mate the cases together, and then that'll be it for this video. So here's the cases where we stand right now before they get coated. So yeah, polished aluminum would look sick, and that's not even polished. That's just, you know, everything cleaned down. This one's almost to the point where I could start coating it too. there's a lot of little nooks and crannies, man, you got to get with these things, with the wire wheels and everything. I probably got about 7,000 pieces of wire wheel strands stuck in my stomach and my chest right now, but, you know, as long as it's not my eye, it doesn't really count. Yes, safety, you know, third, usually. But, just finished scraping all the gasket material off of the center of the cases where they made together, and I'll also, after I coat these, I'll resurface all these surfaces. This way they made up and seal real good. And I'll also show you guys a trick how I install gaskets. You probably heard of it before. It's pretty simple, but you don't have to worry about stuff like this. I mean, it literally took me about probably 30 minutes with an actual gasket scraper to get all this gasket material off where the case is made together, just because somebody just put it on dry. Pretty sure those are probably Chinese gaskets too, but whatever. It is what it is, man. So, yet again, another day with all the little stuff. So, I'll see you guys again tomorrow. We'll pick back up, and we'll get this thing back together. It is about a week later now, guys. A bunch of quad deals popped up. I'm picking up 2 more quads. I'm not going to tell you what they are yet. We'll do that in its own video. I'm in the middle of doing these cases right now, and I wasn't going to show you guys this part like on camera, but some of you might be interested on how I do this and how I get the paint to adhere and how it stays on and it actually is durable and comes out looking really good when it's done. Also, stay tuned, man. I finally went to MotoBlast NJ and got a bunch of stuff vapor blasted for the 465ex build. So I'm going to show you guys that stuff. He also did a minute-and-a-half video. I'll clip that here in a second, and then I'll show you I mocked up my 465ex engine. I got it sitting right there on the cart, and it looks sick. I cannot wait to put this quad together. It's just hollow right now, so I just put it together, but I'll show you after the video he showed me, after I show you what I'm doing with Mike's cases to his 400ex. So I told you guys I was putting a coating on there that's pretty durable. So I'll show you. Here's one here now. I use old covers as like masking stuff off, but I mean it looks pretty good. So to get to that point, what I do is, that's another just a junk cover I use instead of sitting there taping off all the gasket surfaces and everything. This is pretty easy to do, guys. When you're masking stuff off, when there's like a sharp edge where it's at, you just get it on there, make sure the surface is nice and dry and clean. And I take a very fine file and just go across the edges, and it literally cuts the tape. Like, this took me less than a minute to tape this off. Some people get, you know, I guess over worried about doing stuff like that, but obviously the cases are cleaned, they're degreased. So what I'll do is I'll take acetone and I'll put it in a spray bottle. I'll spray it on there, then I'll wipe it off, then I'll take my heat gun and make sure all of the acetone is baked off, because paint won't stick to acetone. But that cleans anything off, any dust that's gotten on it, like, you know, just sitting in the garage, because, you know, it's messy out here. But this will get either etching primer, which is good enough for the temperature that the bottom end gets to, or you could use like the engine enamel primer from VHT. And if you're looking for this kind of silver, this is for like exhaust headers. I mean, you could still use it on it, but the coating that I use is this stuff here. It's not cheap. It's like 20-something bucks a can, but I mean, the stuff comes out looking like brand new aluminum, if not better. And like I said, any mud or grease or anything you get on there wipes right off. I've power washed quads that I've done this to, and the paint stays. But all right, let me cut to the footage from James over at MotoBlast. You guys will get to see everything, like how it went to him, how I brought it to him, all just disgusting and dirty. And then after the clip he sent me, I'll show you guys my 465ex engine, which I can't stop looking at. Really excited. All right, here's the video from James. All right, so as you guys seen, the way that the stuff was brought to him and how it came out after, I wasn't going to show you guys this stuff yet, but I'm pretty excited about it. So, you know, I like to share these things with you guys. I know you guys are just as excited about the 465ex build as I am. There's literally like no expense spared when it came to that build. So, can't really quote you guys prices. If you're interested, here's James's info to MotoBlast. Cool dude. Definitely, you know, does his thing, man. Like, everything got masked off. Everything was super taken care of. Definitely happy with the quality. But yeah, here's a 465ex engine. And then, I mean, I'm not going to pull out all the other parts that were done, but you guys seen them in the video. I had a ton of shit done. Like, literally that day, I was running through my garage, grabbing anything aluminum that was in my path. Boxed it up, went there. It was like a truckload of stuff. But anyway, here's the 465ex engine. Bam! Look at that thing. It is going to look sick, guys. I had carburetors done, all kinds of stuff. I even had taken a starter apart, and I got the end caps that are aluminum vapor blasted. Even the timing chain tensioner is vapor blasted. Everything that goes to the engine, the motor mounts, the spacers, everything is vapor blasted, plus a ton of other stuff. I probably had 3 of these clutch covers and 3 stator covers done, just so I can have them wrapped up and on the shelf for next builds that are coming up. But it's gonna look so sick. So sick. And I also have a coating that I'm going to try out. This shark hide stuff here. It's stuff people would use on their aluminum race boats and stuff. So we'll get some nice protection on that. He said you can keep this stuff clean for a while, as long as you like wash your bike or quad or whatever you're riding after you get it dirty. Obviously, you know, yes, you could probably stain it. You know, it's literally glass beaded aluminum, vapor blasted, vapor honed, however you want to say it. But like I said, you guys can see I didn't even get the port in his head yet. But you know, it's just hollow, like I said. I also even had the airbox done. Like, here's the carb I'm running on the 465. This is an OEM 0405 450R carburetor, which I'm going to send to Curtis from 223cycles.net and get that all built up. Had an XR400ex carb done, a PWK 38 done, bunch of linkages, all the Lone Star stuff. Anything that was aluminum that's going on the 465ex build got vapor blasted. So it's been a long time coming, but like I said, guys, I'm really just going over the top with that quad. So anyway, stay tuned. All right, let me get back to finishing this up, let them dry, and then we'll get it on the stand. And I'll also pull out this other bottom end that I have sitting in this box. This is just spare parts, and I'm not going to pull the crank out of it because that crank's good, but I'll show you guys how I use the case splitter to remove the crank, since I didn't do that on camera with Mike's engine. So I'll just give you a quick rundown on how to do that. It's pretty simple. Same way we use the case splitter to split the cases. You just put it on the other side and push the crank out. So, but I'll give you a visual on that here before we get started putting Mike's engine together with his new crank and new crank bearings. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so I got this spare junk bottom end sitting here just to give you guys a quick rundown on how you would push the crank out. You guys see me take the flywheel or magneto, whatever the hell you want to call it, from wherever the hell you're from. So once you take this off, like you guys seen in the other video, you're going to want to put the 3 studs in to this side of the case now, and you want to have them evenly split. You know, like, so the load is properly spread out. You don't want to put them like all, like 2 here and then like 1 down here. It ain't going to work like that. You're going to keep it like as center as you can with these 3. Same thing as before, you would screw them all the way in by hand, and then usually just by hand I'll, you know, put the lock nut up against the case. If you don't put the lock nut on there, these do have like a little bit of wobble to them until you put the lock nut up against the mating surface of the gasket on the stator side. I guess you could split the cases from the stator side and leave all the stuff in the right side case. I just always take the right side case off of the quad and leave the crank in the left side. But Once you put that on there, same thing as how we split the cases, you would crank down on this, which would then push on the crankshaft itself and hold the cases. So it would push that in, which would push the crank out of the bottom end. One thing you definitely want to do if you're pulling this apart, when you're splitting, I mean, guys, real quick, look at all this stuff in this engine, man. Somebody, believe it or not, this crank is still A-okay, but look what they did to this piston, man. This is your Chinese car running your bike too lean type of situation here. Messed, just completely screwed. But anyway, when you're pushing the crank out, be sure that you take the counterbalances. See how they're away from each other right now? If you try to split it with it like this, or even just slightly in the way, the crank is going to come out. It's going to start pushing out, and then the counterbalancer, where the counterweight is, if you don't get them away from each other, like I just showed you, like this, the crank will push out. This counterbalance will catch the inner counterbalance of the crank. So, you know, like these two edges here. And the crank will be pushing out, and then when it touches the counterbalance of the counterweight, it will get crooked and it won't allow it to come out. And you could definitely, if you're not paying attention, split your cases. So when you are going to do this, if you're going to do this, or whatever, if you just hire somebody, that's up to you. But make sure the counterbalances are opposing, like opposite sides of each other. This way you don't have to worry about that. And you do only have to push the crank out like a minimal amount, and then you can wiggle the counterbalance out of the way. And this way you don't have to worry about that. But all right, let me get everything else set up. I'm going to continue building his cases tomorrow. Obviously, still be the same video. I'll be right back with you, but I'm going to let those dry until tomorrow, even though I could definitely handle them right now. I'm going to let these dry up real good, and then we'll pick back up tomorrow. I'm going to spend the rest of the day. I'm going to do some custom stuff to his clutch and stator cover, and I'm going to get his cylinder ready. Also, later in the video, I'll show you guys how I gap piston rings. You just follow the directions that come with the piston. But, you know, I'll show you that real quick. I'll show you a tool that I have for it, too. Or you could do it with a small file. Either way, you can get it done. But, all right, let me prep a bunch more stuff up, and we'll pick back up in the morning with this video. All right, guys, so like I said earlier in the video, I would just slap the transmission back in to show you guys how you would take it out. You would obviously, you'd want to take all the stuff out of your way before you pull the crank out. I apologize for forgetting to film taking it out, but I showed you guys how to do that now, so you know, none of you guys are stupid. You guys know what I'm saying here. You see me split the cases in the last video, so I'm trying to get you the best angle I can, as if like I got the camera in front of me, so I'm looking at it exactly how you guys are looking at it right now. Try and get you the best shot as I can. So normally what I do when I'm pulling the bottom end out, you could do it several different ways, but I mean, it's pretty basic stuff, guys. We'll do it this way this time. Pull the pin out for all the shift forks, and then as these come out, you'll notice this one has an R on it, so this is right. So if we're working on the left side of the case, this is the right side. Then you have the one on the input shaft, has a C on it for center. And then the other one, well, we'll pull the shift drum out of our way real quick. So in here, there's a spring-loaded section here. You want to pull that back, push your shift fork out of your way, if it'll let us. Oh, here, we'll just take this out. We'll do it the normal procedure here. So you want to keep that spring-loaded. Trying to get you guys where you can see. Hold on, let me move the camera for you. All right, that might be a little better. So I'm pushing this spring-loaded section in and pulling the shifter mechanism out of my way. It's kind of hard to do it with a camera and a tripod in front of me here. You just slide that out like that. This is the springed section that I was telling you about. We'll go ahead and move our other shift fork out of the way. And then the shift drum just comes out like so. And our other shift fork has an L on it. It has an L on it. So you got You got the one that goes all the way to the left, and you got this one, the left one goes on the output shaft. Then you have the center goes on the input shaft, and then the right one also goes on the output shaft. When I pull the transmission out, I'll show you guys where these slide into. It's pretty obvious if you look where they go. So now the transmission, where they slide through when you're taking them out of the left case, there are washers on the bottom. So you want to just grab it from underneath, and you want to make sure you have, if the washer stays behind, it's no big deal. You can just put it back on, but just pull that out like that. And see, one of our washers stayed behind. This is the one that was on the input shaft. Oh, the other one stayed behind too. Look at that. No big deal. So these are the transmission gears all meshed together here. So I'll show you guys where the shift forks go. You can see this is the left one where that gap is. This is the right one where the gap is. And then on the input shaft, it's pretty simple to see. It's the only flat spots in there that you see. So one, so left, center, and then the right one. That's really all it is. When you're putting these back in, I mean, I'll show you guys a little, like what I do when I'm reinstalling. It's a little tricky to get the shift forks on the shift drum and aligned all at the same time, but it's really not that bad. Now would be the time for you to inspect all your transmission gears, make sure there's no uneven wear or any uneven wear on the pads of the shift fork too. Alright guys, now I'm going to install the crank bearings. I had already put the one in the left case because I want that one to, you know, all the heat and the frozen bearing to, you know, equalize, because that's the side I'm obviously going to be working with. I had the camera tilted like this, sorry. So I'll show you on the right case what I do. Bearings go in the freezer. They were in there for a few days. You don't need to wait that long, obviously, but I had stuff going on. So what I do is I take MAP gas, or you could put the cases in the oven. I think it's like 300 degrees or something. But Mike is only doing crank bearings on this, and I didn't want to risk the other ones dropping out because that could turn into a problem. Now, if you heard me talking earlier in the video about I seen somebody installing bearings and a crank with a 3-pound sledgehammer, I'm going to tap on it very, very slightly if it doesn't just drop right in. They usually just drop right in with this procedure. But, I mean, you can give it a little bit of encouragement. I'm talking like the weight of the hammer. Don't friggin' rail it home. And the person I saw doing this, I'm not going to say their name. You know, it's not how I am. You probably figure it out if you search YouTube. But, what was I going to say? They were installing the bearings and the crank. Both the cases and the bearings and the crank were room temperature. So when you freeze the bearings, the metal actually contracts and becomes slightly smaller. Just the opposite when you heat up the case where the new bearing is going into. You heat it up, it slightly expands. So usually they just go clink and fall right in. Sometimes if it's dead straight, because I mean these things are like precision fit in here. There's not a hair of clearance with it when they're both the same temperature. And if you are going to tap on it, you want to tap on the outer race of the bearing. You don't want to tap on the middle race where you're putting all that pressure on the middle race, and then that's, you know, equalizing out to the ball of the ball bearings and then to the outer race. That's not what you want to do. You know, if you even have to tap it, usually the stuff just falls right in. So I'm going to get set up. I'll put you guys on a tripod. I'll show you heating this up. I got the bearing here already. It's all nice and frosty. And I'll show you what to do after they're installed, because freezing them, you get moisture on it. Moisture turns into rust on steel, so you want something that will displace moisture, like a WD-40, or I think Maxima makes a MPPL, multi-purpose penetrating lube, something like that. You just want to coat it down so it doesn't have a chance to rust. So let me set you guys up, and I'll show you guys how this bearing falls in. Alright guys, so I'm hoping you have a good view on this. I already started preheating this because I heated up for probably a good 4 or 5 minutes. But I'll do another like 10 seconds of it or 20 seconds and show you. This is MAP gas. It's a little hotter than the blue tank, which is propane. So I'm just going in circular motion, nice and slow. And you can know aluminum disperses heat pretty well, so like even heat here, it's already warm over here from me preheating it. Usually when I install bearings, I will put the majority of the writing that's on the races of the bearings will be facing the inside of the engine. So I think I always feel like I should heat it up more, but it's more than likely ready to receive the new part. I got the bearing right here. So we'll go ahead and give her a shot. So grab the bearing by the inside. Bang, look at that, right in. No tapping, no nothing. No fuss, no muss, whatever you want to say. There it is. No hammer necessary. Bearing frozen, case is heated up. It's that simple. It's just that simple. So, like, let me give you an example. So, like, this is a ball peen hammer. Ball peen hammers are for smacking other metal items with. Claw hammers for, you know, doing nails and pulling nails and stuff. I don't know if you guys ever seen a hammer shatter before. I have. It's not a pretty sight. But if this thing was to have not gone in, they fall in if you drop them in dead straight. You got to be real pretty damn straight with it, and it'll fall right in. Just like you just seen, it's completely seated in there. But if it didn't, you could just tap. Just lightly tap, and it will just go clink and fall right in. You do not need to get... I said this before. You do not need to get a 4-foot long, 10-pound sledgehammer and stand on the roof of your house, drop down, and smash onto the shit. It's not needed, man. It's a little science involved, and it's just that simple. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get the crank installed with our Tusk crank puller / installing tool. I'll show you guys how that works. I'm sure you've probably seen it on YouTube before. I know my boy Mike Sabo uses the same product. I'll show you guys how you assemble that tool and how you get it set up so you can pull the crank in. We're going to pull the crank into the, where did I put it? The left side case. Once I let that cool completely off, because it'll be warm for a while. So, you know, I want that to be all, you know, right and ready to go. So we're going to pull it into that side because that one is a sweat fit. It needs to be pulled in. This bearing on this side, well, not the bearing, but the crank itself, you could slide the right side case right onto it. Sometimes it needs a little encouragement, but it's not a sweat fit like it goes into on the stator side. So let me get set up for that now. Let's keep going, and then we'll build the transmission back out. I'll show you guys how that all goes together. Stay tuned. Alright guys, so before we go ahead and use this Tusk crank puller / installer tool, I'll show you guys what comes in the package. These are all the items that are in there. I'll show you how we assemble them when we go to pull the crank in. Basically, this centerpiece here has a pin on it. If you can see that little raised portion right here. That corresponds with, you see that, if I can get you guys a little light here. Where the hell is it? You guys see that notch in it? Get a little light here, we'll be good to go. Well, that notch goes all the way through it, just like that. So that has to correspond with that, otherwise it will not fit on. Then you got, this is the nut. I believe this is I think it's a 1-inch. But this just goes on the end of this here. And then, I'm trying to do this one-handed here. These are for different style cranks that you would be pulling in. These three we will not be using for the 400ex. It is this one here. So this you would slide onto your crank, and then this is where the bolt, like the 17 that you would be turning when you do your check your timing underneath the timing inspection cap. So these would go on like this. So this goes on the crank. I'll show you this when we do it, but I'm just giving you a little idea. And that's what holds this onto there. Now, this chrome piece would thread into the piece that has the that little knob in it, like that. And then you would disperse these evenly, and I'll show you guys how you choose a decent section to do that. This sits on these, and then as you tighten this down, it pulls the crank in nice and even. Cranks, you don't want to go hammering on them from the other side in, or putting it in a press and pushing it in, because the crank, you know, you got the half and then it's got where the rod goes. So like you would be bending it like this, or the proper word for it is out of true. So you don't want your crank to be out of true, because there's several ways that it can be out of true, from like, you know, counterbalance to counterbalance, or you know, the balance part of the crank, and then you got where the big end of the rod goes with the bearing. You don't want to like sandwich that or even tweak them away from each other. You're not going to like the way your quad rides, and you know, you're going to be kicking yourself in the ass because you spent a ton of money and messed it all up. Can you get them retrued? Yes. But you know, it's probably more expensive than buying another crank these days, unless, you know, you do the right thing and buy OEM or decent product stuff. So anyway, all right, let me, I got the crank in the freezer, guys. I'm gonna get that all pulled out, and I'll show you. This is like the tricky part, getting this counterbalancer lined up with the crank. Here's a timing mark on this side, where you would time it with the crank. So you know, you don't want the balances of the crank and the counterbalance to be off. The quad would be shaking like crazy, rattle itself apart, kind of like a two-stroke. Anyway, all right, let me get on with this. Let's keep going here. So here we go, guys. I got the crank out of the freezer. As you can see, it's pretty damn frozen, but there's also marks on the other side if you wanted to do this like from the right case and build it that way. But you can see we got this little mark here on the crank and the corresponding mark on the counterbalance assembly, or counterbalance shaft as it is in the manual. So now I'm going to put you guys on the tripod and I'll show you how to put the crank puller / installing tool on the crank from the stator side, and we'll start pulling this thing in. So I hope this is a good enough angle for you guys to show you what's going on here. So here's that chrome piece I was telling you about, and also the bolt that fits the crank for a 400ex. So we're going to put this on like this here, and you want to get this bolt to catch as many threads as you could possibly get it to catch. So you don't want to just like stick a little bit in there. You want to get as much of it threaded in as possible. You know, we're going to be applying a decent amount of force to this. Not too much, because I froze the crank too. It almost slid in by hand, and I was like, let me not do that because I want to get it on film for you guys. But let me see this tool. I suppose you could, you know, you could heat up the bearing a little bit, the inner race, and go that way. But make sure we are on time over here. This is like the tricky part. You got to make sure it's going all in, because once you start pulling this crank in a little bit, it's you know, it's not fun to have to go back and push it out a little bit to adjust the counterbalance. Ask me how I know. So now we're going to get this piece threaded onto the chrome part there, and then this piece with the slotted section in it slides over this, and we'll get that lined up with the mark there. And then this nut goes over the, let me turn the camera here for you guys. This part goes over the threads of the installing tool, like so. All right, so these are the rods I was telling you about. These are going to go against your case and between the crank installing tool, like this. So you want to go with like a thicker section of the case. You don't want to set it up on like a real thin spot. So if you have no other option, you can go like where the bolt goes to put the stator cover on. But once you get the installer tool cranked down, let me try and get you guys a better angle here. You can figure out where you want to put these when you get this a little bit closer to where it's going, so it kind of holds those rods for you, kind of like now. So I'm going to go ahead and put one like that there, and then something like that Maybe we'll go this way. It's always a... you want to do this slowly, guys. You don't want to go... You don't want to put an impact on this and pull it in. And if something's binding up, you'll notice these bars do have a little bit of flex to them. But if you start like bowing them like crazy, stop what you're doing. Stop what you're doing and go back over this stuff. Let me get out the tools I need and we'll pick back up. All right, I almost forgot to mention something to you guys. Make sure you have the rod up, obviously, where it goes, because the center of this rod will be with like the center line of the crank. So if you get it in the transmission somewhere, which, believe me, I've done it too before. It's an easy thing to forget if you're just like, yeah, let me get this in, because you're trying to get frozen parts into warm parts and you're trying to hurry up so it goes in smooth. I just throw 2 of the cylinder bolts in there, and this is just 1 rubber band around the bolt, loop it around there, and then go to the other bolt and holds it there. We are still in time. I'll show you those hash marks after we get it spun in, but now we can continue pulling the crank in. So like I said, I gotta put the damn rods on it. That might help. Jesus, I feel like I'm like a bumbling idiot when I'm trying to film, trying to remember everything and make it understandable for, you know, people that haven't done this before. I know a lot of you guys that watch the channel do a lot of your own work, so but you know, sometimes I'm explaining stuff and you're like, duh, that's because there might be somebody watching that isn't like, duh, when something like that is said. But you'll hear a little bit of creaking as it goes in, possibly. So you want to do a few turns, and then this is where the counterbalancer wants to bind up on you. You gotta really keep that lined up so it doesn't bind up on you, because it definitely will. Let me change the angle so you guys can see what I'm talking about. All right, so here's a better angle. This counterbalancer, like I said, you want to keep checking your timing marks and make sure you're on time. I'll show you those like after we get it pulled in, obviously, but you want to make sure, because the crank will be sliding in and this will be like just chilling, and then when the counterbalancers go to touch each other, it'll bind up and give you a problem. So you want to just make sure every couple turns you keep this pushed in. But we're good to go still, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a few more cranks. Will allow me. That's that creaking noise I'm talking about. Make sure that's in. Every time this thing makes a creak, it pushes that, pops that counterbalancer back out like it wants to keep bouncing around. So you got to keep checking it every time you go pulling it in a little bit here. My stand is not cooperating with me. There's another creak. Make sure we're still in. And we're almost home, guys. Let me finish getting this pulled in. You guys see what's going on. None of you are stupid. But here, I'll show you this timing mark you want to keep staying on. I showed it to you before, but these 2 lines here, you want to make sure when it's turned that it's where it's supposed to be. So, all right, let me continue going with this, and then we'll get putting this trans in. It's a lot simpler than you guys may think it is. All right, so here's a better look at those lines. I couldn't turn the crank because I had the puller tool still on it, but you can see how when they meet up, they're both level like they're supposed to be, and as it turns, they, you know, start going away from each other, obviously. But we are nice and smooth. I'm right-handed, so this is a little weird with my left, but we're ready to go. All right, now I'm going to set you guys up on the tripod, and let's start putting all this transmission. Dude, I can't. Dude, what is wrong with me? I can't say transmission in this video. Let's start putting a transmission in, and we'll get this thing sealed up, ready for the next process, putting the top end on. All right, guys, so now we're ready to put the trans in. I have engine assembly lube and all the bearings. I had already inspected all the gears to the transmission here from Mike. You want to make sure there's also a thrust washer on the back of the output shaft, but You want to make sure both of your thrust washers are on the side that we are sliding into the case, one being the output and one being the input shaft. Then you want to, I'm trying to get you guys an angle here, you want to have these gears all meshed together. So first one with the first one, last one with the last one. It only fits together really one way. You'll know what feels right. But let me get my other hand around here. I want to go ahead and feed these in together, and you want to make sure that the output shaft doesn't catch the new grease or the new engine seals that I put in this engine for Mike. And get your finger out from underneath of there and just feed it all in at the same time. And stupid engine stand. All right, so there's the trans. That's all in there. If it doesn't spin freely, don't be bugged out. Once the shift forks go in there, that'll help all that. All right, now that I got you guys and the engine stand facing 90 degrees, we're going to take our first shift fork that has an L on it, obviously because it's the left case that we're working on, so this one will go in first. It's the left one, and the writing is going to face up in this case. The other side doesn't have anything written on it. I had already rubbed engine assembly lube on all these, so they got some lubricant to them. You want to make sure this pin is facing where the shift drum is going to go. So the first one, L, goes into the slot down at the bottom of the input shaft, and we'll just push this over here where the shift fork shaft is going to go. Our next shift fork is the one that has the letter C on it for center. This one's going to go on the input shaft over here. Like I said, guys, it's real easy to see where these slide into. I showed you that earlier in the video. And the last one has an R on it for right. That's going to go into that slot there. Then we're going to take our shift fork shaft, and this goes through all three of these, and I have an engine assembly lube on there if you can't see that. Goes through all three of these forks. You got it bouncing around a little bit, goes in there, and then it also goes into the insert of the left case. So now those are all where they go. So the next thing I'm going to put in is the shift drum here. This is the part that gets a little bit tedious. It's not that bad. You just got to kind of, you know, mess with it for a couple minutes, but you can see all these different slots in here. These are where all of your shift fork, the little knobs on the shift forks run, and then they travel through these little grooves and stuff here. That's what moves the gears up and down and changes gears for you. I'm going to go ahead and put a few drops of assembly lube on this, even though these are used parts and, you know, they have oil and stuff on them already. It's just a good habit to get into. Just, you know, throw some assembly lube on stuff when you're doing it. It doesn't need to be much because we're going to rotate everything, but just go ahead and get it loosely all in them grooves. So, like I said, this is the part that might kind of try your patience a little bit. So, it'd be hard to get you guys a view of this at the same time. But I'm going to pull up on them. It's got to go in that other bearing that is in the engine there. My hand's locking up on me. And we'll just get them all in there. And we'll make sure that we are in the bearing in the other end of the case there. Which it does not feel like we are. Oh, there we go. That's our problem right there. Alright. Make sure we're in there. Make sure that we are in all three of these grooves. Bear with me, guys. This is a little bit tedious. My fingers are locking up on me, not wanting to cooperate. There we go. Alright, so now we are in. Let me make sure we get this collet back into this gear here, because it just pulled up on me. Just take your time, man. Have a little patience. She'll go right together for you. Now, I'll get you guys set up for the next part that goes in, which is the shifter assembly. Or shift shaft, whatever you want to call it. Let me turn this engine stand back down and get you guys a view of this next. So, next, the shift shaft. This is several pieces. If you buy a new one, you get the spring, a little clips, this spring here. So the way that this goes, guys, you have this spline section. This is where you put your shifter on for your foot. These two prongs on this really stiff spring here, this pin that's in here, shift shaft pin, I think it's called, goes between this part. So when you start putting this through the seal on the outside of the case, you want to pull this part down. You guys seen me do this earlier when I was removing this piece, but you just get this puppy in there. Once it goes through the oil seal, the case seal, and like I said, make sure that pin comes up between that spring, just like that. That is it, man. The inside of the trans is done. That's all there is to it. I know this stuff may seem, and guys, I do this stuff off camera and it falls together. As soon as you turn the camera on, everything wants to bind up on me, but that's how it goes together. So next thing that we're gonna do so we can get this engine sealed up is we're gonna put our case dowels in. There's two of them. It would be these two here, but being nobody put anti-seize in them, I had a hell of a time getting them out, and I can usually get these out undamaged, but these were just done. So two more dowels. Add that to the list, Mike. It's a good thing your boy Matt keeps buckets of OEM Honda stuff here, because we got that shit on the ready. Anyway, all right, so there's the complete bottom end, guys. Next thing, like I said, dowels with anti-seize. We're gonna put anti-seize on the dowels, and then we're gonna put our gasket on. I usually just do these dry. I mean, you could put some Honda Bond or whatever bond you got. Not a fan of that stuff. I usually keep the surfaces nice and clean so it seals the way it's supposed to properly. But with the gasket, what I'll do with the gasket, especially like these paper style gaskets, not like a metal head gasket, but with paper gaskets, I'll dip my fingers in Maxima, the waterproof grease that I have, and I'll rub the gasket down on both sides and it'll soak in the grease. That acts as like, it helps it seal, and then if you ever have to pull this back apart, you don't have to sit there for 30 minutes and scrape the gaskets off with a gasket scraper like I had to do from whoever put the gasket on this thing last. Yes, this engine's been split before. It had a hot rod crank in it. Could it have been split more than once before? Who knows, but that's not the point. It's been split, so, whoever put that stuff in there, I just had to scrape it all off. So, alright, let me get the gasket out. I'll get some grease rubbed on that thing, throw some dowels in, we'll set this case down, and we'll end this video. Finally, I know. Alright, I got the gasket is wiped down with grease. I did this last night. This is the next morning. I called it a night last night. What the grease does when you rub it on the whole gasket, and these gaskets for 400ex, guys, they come connected, this piece to this piece, so you got to either just clip it. If you don't, the rod will pull it, make it come out of alignment. But the grease helps it stick to the case and stay aligned. I don't put a whole shitload on it, like just an even film all the way around the whole thing. Also have both our dowels in. We got one down here and we have one up here. I put a drop of anti-seize on it and then just roll it in my finger. Anti-seize is real messy, guys. Like once you get it on your fingers, it tends to get everywhere and on everything. I like the Permatex brand stuff. This is the anti-seize. So if you're not understanding what anti-seize is, it stops things from seizing. And then when you don't, and they get stuck in there, you end up having to do this. Could I have probably still got these out? Yeah. One way to do it is you can get a bolt that is, or something cylindrical that is the inside diameter of it. Put it inside the dowel and then grip it with a pair of, vice grips or channel locks, however you want to go about it. And that will minimize distorting the diameter of the dowel. But these things are cheap, guys. A lot of the dowels in this engine are the same size. Like these will also work like in other places on the engine as well. Yes, there are different size dowels in a 400ex engine, but I think there's a total of, let's see, and the whole engine would be 1, 2, then you have 2 in the side cover, so 4, 2 for the cylinder, so 6, and then 2 for the head, so 8, and then technically if you want to count, like, well, they're not dowels, but where the cam goes, they have the 2 locating pins on each side. Those are different from the rest of these, but I mean, they're like $2 each, man, for OEM Honda stuff, so there's really no excuse to reuse them. If you get them out and they're like pristine, yeah, you can definitely reuse them, but after you slide the gasket on there, it kind of wipes off some of the anti-seize, so I'll touch these up again before I put the cover on. But let me get the tripod set up. I'll get you guys a good angle. We'll set this right side case onto here and get them mated together, and we'll go over the torque specs for the 13 bolts that hold this together. I told you guys earlier in this video that I would show you how I recoat these, because once you clean them off like this, they will hold on guys, got somebody here. So I told you guys earlier in this video that or maybe it was in the last video, I forget, how I refinish and then recoat these bolts. Well, Mike decided with this engine to go with a full stainless steel bolt kit for the whole engine. These are just for the ones to put the crankcase back together, and then I have the other bolt kit here for the complete engine. You know, like comes with everything here. You get the one for the intake, the exhaust, cylinder head cover, left crankcase cover, starter cover, sprocket cover, oil filter cover, crankcase cover. You know, it comes with everything. This way they'll all be stainless steel Allen head, and when you're putting stainless steel bolts into anything, you're going to want to anti-seize the threads too. This, you know, obviously, like I said before, this way the bolts don't get seized in there, and it also lubricates the threads too, so you get a real nice fluid torque reading on them too, instead of just putting bolts in dry, kind of like when you're putting the cylinder and the cylinder head on. You know, you want to, at least the manual calls for dunking the threads in whatever oil you're going to use, or anti-seize. Don't really use Loctite on stuff like that because they get torqued. I believe these are 33 foot-pounds, and so is the head. I change that by like 1 or 2 pounds when I do a big bore kit. Not really going to hurt anything, just a little extra. You know, talking like instead of 33, it's like 34, 35 foot-pounds that I usually do. But yeah, they call in the manual for these threads to be lubricated as well with engine oil. Like I said, you can use anti-seize as well, but like I said, that gives you a nice fluid torque spec reading. So, all right, what was I telling you? Oh yeah, the recoating of these. You guys, I've used just the cheap barbecue high heat flat black or any high heat paint. Like, it's actually pretty durable. You can usually crank them once if you're careful, like you put the socket on with some, like, you know, some caution, you know, just slapping it on there and cranking it. Obviously use the right socket size. I found out some 12-point sockets actually grip these a little better, but the paint does hold up. So I wanted to try something different since I already stripped all these bolts. I had an idea. You guys know, like a rifle or a gun, they use this stuff. It's called bluing the steel. So I got this, I wanted to try this out. So this is just a small kit for bluing, like to repair like a rifle and stuff. So I'll still do that. It's not going to be in this video. I'm just giving you guys a little, you know, just letting you guys know what my idea was on how to, you know, put a coating that's durable on the bolts that you take out if you want to refurbish them. I think that'll actually be pretty good. I'm going to do it anyway and just keep them like in stock, so I have them if I need them for something. I have a problem throwing bolts out and stuff. You should see my bolt collection. It's insane. But anyway, all right, let me set the tripod up like I said, and let's put this other case on here and get this bottom end done. All right, let's conclude this, guys. I got assembly lube on any of these, like the shift, the fork dowel, the shift drum, the shift shaft itself, counterbalance, any of these parts that are just going to go either A, into another bearing, or B, like the shift fork shaft, just goes into a part in the right side case where it just slides into the aluminum. So all that's nice and lubed up, like all the surfaces of it, even including the other side of the case where like stuff goes into, like, you know, here's for like the shift shaft, here's for the shift drum. Like, I even have lube rubbed on those. So let's go ahead And get also all the bearings obviously have assembly lube on them as well. I want to turn my stand up like this. Let me reposition you guys so you can get a decent view of this. Let's see if that's good for you. Yeah, all right, we'll go with that. All right, let's go ahead and set this down, and it is going to stop when it gets to the dowels, but you want to just take your time here, make sure everything is going on like it should. Now, when the dowels get to, what am I doing here? When the dowels get to the part where, what is this? Bear with me here, guys. Hold on, guys. Let me reset up here. My engine stand's not letting me put it down. This rod's not straight. Let me reset here. Hold on. All right, I had to reconfigure these rods here, but I got it started and stopped here so you guys can see this thing go together. So you just want to take your time and just drop it down nice and slow. There's no need to rush stuff right here. So let's see what's holding us up now. All right. It's pretty much just these things on my engine stand are preventing me from dropping this smoothly on. Alright. Want to make sure your shift fork dowel is lined up and going where it's need to. And there's also here, I'll get you guys a better view of this from up top so you guys can see what this looks like. So here it is going down. You can see through these holes, like you see the shift drum. And then right in this hole is the shift fork shaft. You just want to make sure all that's good and lined up. Make sure everything's coming through nice and smooth. You don't want to force anything. This thing should fall into place on its own. Now, I'll put you guys back on the tripod here. And let's continue doing this. All right. Just like I said, guys, just take your time. Make sure everything's going into the location it's supposed to go into, including the shift shaft itself, which it looks like it is. And this is a dead blow, guys. It's not a metal hammer. I'm not cranking on this at all. I'm just giving it a little bit of encouragement. I'm going to double check everything, make sure we're lined up still. I got to reset these things on this engine stand. This is starting to get annoying. All right, we're almost to the point where the dowels are meeting the right side case for them to slide into the case here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of the new bolts, and I'm not using them to pull the cases together. I'm just going to get them started in a couple threads, and that's mainly just to keep the gasket aligned where it's supposed to. This way it doesn't squash out anywhere. So I'm just going to drop them all in on this side, which is the clutch side. This way it holds all that. So let me get those all in place and we'll pick back up. All right, guys, I put the bolts in on the stator side just to, like I said, just to align the gasket. You don't want to use them to pull the cases together. It's purely just for aligning the gasket. So we're pretty lined up now. Finish going around, tapping this in over the dowels. And as you can see, she is coming right together nice and smooth. All right, so I'll go ahead and turn this down. This stand needs to be greased up, guys. It's starting to give me a problem, but yeah, it is what it is. I use it friggin' all the damn time. All right, so here we are. All where they mate are all back together. You gotta trim off our gaskets after I torque everything. So what I'm gonna do now is, and I'll show you guys in the manual here, I will show you guys the torque specs for all these bolts. I'm gonna go ahead and get them pre-anti-seized, and we'll put this together. I'll tell you guys the torque specs, and then, yes, you may go on to the next video. We're gonna go ahead and end this one, and I'll piece you guys out. God damn, that thing looks good, doesn't it? Sheesh. All right, let me get all these bolts ready and get the torque specs out for you guys so you guys know what they are. Let's get it. So here we are, guys. One thing I'm not doing in this video, you know, the flywheel and the one-way gear, they just go on just like they came off. And make sure you have your keyway. Mike's keyway is actually stuck in his old crank, so I'm gonna have to dig one out of my parts pile. I have a few OEM keyways for the flywheel in stock, so I'll do that off camera. It's pretty much going to be it for Mike's quad as far as videos go. I don't think I've ever showed you guys how I gap piston rings, so when I go to put the top end on this, I'll make a video on that, even though we've done top ends on 400EXs before. But this is a customer's quad, and I'm sure he's going to want to see everything that goes into it. So we'll do the ring gapping and all that stuff together and show you guys how that goes on. I'll also show you his head when I'm done porting it before we put it on. But like I said, all his bolts we upgraded to stainless steel Allen heads. All the threads are done with anti-seize, and I even put anti-seize on the back of the washer too, so there's no binding when it gets torqued down. But when you're going to torque these down, you want to go in a random crisscross pattern, and they all go to 7 foot-pounds, even 99 to 04 and the 05 and up with the reverse model. It's all 7 foot-pounds. So I'm going to take care of that, and that's pretty much it as far as the bottom end goes. This stuff is not as hard as you may think it is, man. If you've never done something like this, guys, it's not that bad. I'll give you a little tip on how I got started. I'm not a certified mechanic or anything. I just, I like doing this stuff. It comes easy to me in my head. When I was younger, I was always like worried to strip a bottom end and split cases and stuff like that because it just seemed really intimidating. It's not that bad, man. Just take your time, stay organized. It's not that bad. You guys see what's in the transmission of these. These things are so simple, the 400EX and the XR400. Once you get into like the reverse model engine, they're different from the 99 to 04 style, obviously. You got some extra stuff in there. But a tip, like, go out and get something cheap, man. Get a bike that's blown up, like, even something you don't care about, even if it's just an engine like this. Like, I got this for free, guys. This is an 87 RM250 dirt bike engine. Go grab something that you really don't care about. Pull it apart, put it back together. Pull it apart, put it back together. Clean stuff, learn how the stuff goes together. Yes, this is a different engine than a 400EX reverse, regular style or reverse, but it's all basic stuff, man. There's a lot of similarities. So just, go grab something and mess around with it a little bit. That's all. Get yourself a manual. Yes, you can look at the stuff online. I like to have, a tangible manual at my disposal. So, all right, man. Thank you guys for staying this long in the video. If you have not yet, please smash the thumbs up button, man. It helps the channel and the video out huge. Check out my other videos. There's tons of 400EX content. Like I said, it crosses over into the XR400 engine. It's all the same stuff, man. But if you haven't yet, also smash the subscribe button, turn your notifications on. We do live streams. I do live streams a lot too, guys. Well, I used to do them a lot, and I got to get back into doing more of them. But we diagnosed and fixed this 400EX live in a live stream. Like, you guys told me what to do. I was just your hands-on person in the live stream, and we got this thing running. Thank you guys for watching. Like I said, I'll see you guys in the garage next time. We'll do the ring gapping and put the rest of this engine together, and then when the quad's built, I'll show you guys Mike's quad. We'll go do the break-in for him. We'll do the first oil change, and we'll go through the heat cycles and everything too. I'll show you guys how that goes. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Peace! Are you really still here watching this video? Well, since you are, let me give you guys a little sneak peek of what's to come. Sneak peek starts in 3, 2, 1. That's enough. See you in the next video.